Школьная научно-практическая конференция «Открытие». Секция «Великая Победа». Копытина Кристина, руководитель Агапова Наталья Анатольевна. Тема «Королева Елизавета II во время Второй Мировой войны». Queen Elizabeth II and the Second World War. The Queen is both the oldest and the longest reigning monarch in British history. She has been head of state in Britain and the Commonwealth countries since her father's death caused her to be crowned queen in 1952. When Britain entered the Second World War in September 1939, Elizabeth was only 14 years old. The British politician Douglas Haig suggested to the royal family that the young Elizabeth and her sister Margaret should be evacuated to Canada. But the princess' mother replied in no uncertain terms. "The children won't go without me," she said. "I won't live without the king, and the king will never leave." It was settled. The British royal family would stay in their country. They moved from place to place during the war. The first few dark winter months were spent at the ancient Balmoral estate in the Scottish Highlands. The young sisters stayed there until Christmas of 1939. Then the royal family moved to Norfolk and then back to Windsor, where they stayed for the rest of the war. Still at the young age of 14, the Princess Elizabeth made her first public radio broadcast on the BBC radio program Children's Hour. She spoke with feeling directly to the many children and young people who had been separated from their families during the evacuations, which had begun in September 1939. She appealed to their courage and to their determination, telling them to stay strong and to stay hopeful. She expressed a belief that, eventually, peace would come again.
This is the BBC Home Service. Hello, children everywhere. This is one of the most important days in the history of Children's Hour. Some time ago, we were honoured by the visit to the studio of the King and Queen with Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret during the broadcast of a Toy Town programme. Today, Princess Elizabeth is herself to take part in the Children's Hour and speak to the children of the Empire at home and overseas. Listeners in the United States of America will also hear this broadcast. Her Royal Highness, Princess Elizabeth.
In wishing you all good evening, I feel that I am speaking to friends and companions who have shared with my sister and myself many a happy children's hour. Thousands of you in this country have had to leave your homes and be separated from your fathers and mothers. My sister Margaret Rose and I feel so much for you, as we know from experience what it means to be away from those we love most of all. To you living in new surroundings, we send a message of true sympathy, and at the same time we would like to thank the kind people who have welcomed you to their homes in the country. All of us children who are still at home think continually of our friends and relations who have gone overseas, who have travelled thousands of miles to find a wartime home and a kindly welcome in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United States of America. My sister and I feel we know quite a lot about these countries. Our father and mother have so often talked to us of their visits to different parts of the world. So it is not difficult for us to picture the sort of life you are all leading, and to think of all the new sights you must be seeing, and the adventures you must be having. But I am sure that you too are often thinking of the old country. I know you won't forget us. It is just because we are not forgetting you that I want on behalf of all the children at home, to send you our love and best wishes, to you and to your kind hosts as well. Before I finish, I can truthfully say to you all that we children at home are full of cheerfulness and courage. We are trying to do all we can to help our gallant sailors, soldiers and airmen. And we are trying too to bear our own share of the danger and sadness of war. We know, every one of us, that in the end all will be well, for God will care for us and give us victory and peace. And when peace comes, remember, it will be for us, the children of today, to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place. My sister is by my side, and we are both going to say good night to you. Come on, Margaret. Good night, children. Good night, and good luck to you all.
And if I may be allowed, I would like to say what is in the minds of all the children listening. Thank you, Princess Elizabeth, very much for broadcasting in the Children's Hour.
The Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret raised money for the Queen's Wool Fund, which bought wool to be made into military clothing. In 1943, the Princess Elizabeth turned 16. She made her first public appearance inspecting a troop of Grenadier Guards. The Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret, along with their mother, made a great impact on the Guardsmen. The princess, too, was greatly impressed by the soldiers, and the day remained in her memory for a long time after. When she was 18, she enrolled in the Women's Auxiliary Territorial Service. The ATS was the women's branch of the British Army. Princess Elizabeth trained as a mechanic and a truck driver, learning to work on the engines of many different kinds of motor vehicles. During her time training and working, she was often seen in the uniform of the service. She took her duties seriously. She remained humble and hard-working during her time in the ATS. When the war was finally finished, Princess Elizabeth and her sister Margaret went out and saw the crowds. It was the 8th of May, 1945, and the victory was being celebrated by crowds in the capital. They walked together, arm in arm, along Whitehall, swept along by the crowd. In conclusion, I would like to note that Queen Elizabeth II remains the only female member of the royal family to join the army and was the only living head of state to serve in World War II.